Good evening, council, staff, and members of the public. May I have a mover and seconder to call the meeting to order, please? I have councillors Fisher and Moore that the regular meeting of the Council of the Township of Springwater of November 20th, 2024 come to order at 6:30 p.m. All those in favor? And that has carried. And please stand if you're able for the singing of O Canada, which this evening is a recording from the Forest Hill Public School Choir. Thanks. And before we begin this evening, I would like to now take a moment to recognize the winner of our very first ever holiday card coloring contest and offer congratulations to Taryn of Phelpston for your incredible design. Taryn, if you could please come forward and join us to collect your prize, and we would like to take a photo with you as well. So if council could follow us over. Councilor, are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest this evening? I'm not seeing any. May I have a mover and seconder to call the public meeting to order, please? I have councillors Garwood and Alexander that this public meeting of council held under section 34 of the Planning Act for zoning bylaw amendment ZB 2024-017, 2422 Floss Road 6 West be called to order at 6:34 p.m. All those in favor? And that has carried. Welcome to this public meeting of Springwater Township Council held in compliance with section 34 of the Planning Act to give the public an opportunity to express their views in regards to the proposed amendment of the Township of Springwater zoning bylaw as amended. The first part of this meeting is to present the amendment. Following, the public will have given an opportunity to make oral submissions through the Zoom application or in person. Any person wishing to make oral submission is to have notified the township prior to 8:30 a.m. this morning and been added to the commenters list. If a person or public body who who files an appeal of the decision of the Township of Springwater in respect of the zoning bylaw amendment does not make oral submissions at the public meeting or written submission to the Township of Springwater before the proposed zoning bylaw amendment is passed, the Ontario Land Tribunal may dismiss part or all of the appeal. All comments and questions should be addressed through the chair. Oral submissions will be included in the meeting minutes and form part of the public record, including the name, address of the speaker as information collected under the Municipal Freedom of Information and Protection Privacy Act. The minutes of the meeting will be posted on the township's website. ZB 2024-017, 2422 Floss Road 6 West. I will now call upon the clerk to confirm the notice of this meeting and dates to which it's been given.
Notice of this public meeting was mailed on the 31st day of October 2024 to the owner of the subject lands and to the assessed owners of 9 properties in the Township of Springwater within 240 meters of the area, to which the proposed amendment would apply, and to all persons in public bodies as prescribed under the Planning Act and in its regulations. Notice was posted at the assessed property to which the proposed amendment applies at a location visible from Floss Road 6 West. Notice was also posted on the township's website.
Has the planning department received any correspondence in response to the notice of public meeting?
There has been one item of correspondence received for this application, Enbridge Gas, in an email dated November 4th, 2024.
I will now call upon Planner Hawk to outline the purpose and effect of the zoning bylaw amendment.
Good evening, council, staff, and members of the public. My name is Ariane. I'm one of the planners here at Springwater. I will be doing the presentation today for ZB 2024-017 Smith for the lands known as 2422 Floss Road 6 West. Next slide, please. So just a bit of background on this property. So the lands were originally created in 2008 by way of a surplus farm dwelling severance. In 2022, the applicant came forward and wanted to do a boundary adjustment, which you can see on the bottom picture there, which is the blue outline, to sever and convey 0.42 hectares of land, so about 1.03 acres. As part of the 6 conditions of consent for this decision, condition 5 stated that the applicant rezone the conveyed lands to the agricultural exception A46, consistent with the benefiting lands, and this is the application in front of you tonight. Next slide. So a little bit about this application. This is for rezoning the conveyed lands from the agricultural consolidation AC to the agricultural exception A46 zone. Both benefiting and retained lands will continue to meet area requirements of zoning bylaw 5000, and the proposed rezoning is consistent with all levels of policy and does not remove any viable agricultural land from production. Staff are recommending approval of application ZB 2024-017. Last slide, please. Thank you for your time. The applicant and myself are here for any questions.
Thank you. I will now call upon our moderator to provide the number of people who have registered to ask questions or make comments regarding this application.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Coughlin. There have been no members of the public who have registered to make an oral submission.
Are there any individuals here present this evening who would like to make oral submissions regarding this meeting? And I will now turn to council for any questions or comments on this application. And not seeing any, thank you to those who participated in the public meeting with respect to the proposed zoning bylaw amendment and for showing an interest in the matter. Sorry. May I have a mover and seconder to adjourn the public meeting, please? I have Councillors Garwood and Deputy Cabral. That this public meeting of council held under Section 34 of the Planning Act for ZB 2024-017, 2422 Floss Road 6 West does adjourn at 6:39 p.m. All those in favor? And that has carried. May I have a mover and seconder for the direction following the public meeting? Deputy Cabral and Councillor Alexander, that a report from the planner regarding ZB 2024-017 dated November 20th, 2024 be received and that bylaw 5398 be presented to council for consideration and approval on the November 20th, 2024, subject to comments received during the public meeting. All those in favor? And that has carried. And I will now call upon Morgan Deneau to present. Thank you and welcome.
I'm not sure if I'm supposed to do something with the microphone before I start.
You're good to go.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much, Your Worship, members of council, members of staff, and members of the public. I am here today to present the 2023 Community Settlement Strategy and the recommendations that come with this document. Next slide, please. So a little bit about our team, the Simcoe County Local Immigration Partnership, commonly referred as the LIP. We are partially funded by Immigration, Refugee, and Citizenship Canada. We're not alone in the work that we do. There are currently 36 local immigration partnership in Ontario and over 90 across Canada. And the work that we do is mainly community-based planning. We work with community partners on improving immigrant outcomes that can be economically or socially. We don't work directly with immigrants. Next slide, please. So to provide a little bit of context before I talk about the community settlement strategy, I would like to provide a little bit of data around our community. In Simcoe County in 2021, the census recorded 82,290 immigrants, which represented 15.7% of the population. It was an increase from the 2016 census data of 33.6%. And when we were looking at the township of Springwater, it was kind of on par with the county of Simcoe. It was an increase of 28.8% of immigrant residents moving into the township of Springwater between 2016 and 2021. Next slide, please. When we look at the diversity in our communities, we also look at languages and most commonly the non-official mother tongue. So this is defined by a person that has a mother tongue other than French and English. In the township of Springwater, between 2016 and 2021, there were an increase of 60.7% of resident reporting a non-official mother tongue, which overall represents 7.7% of the residents in Springwater. Next slide, please. When we look at the diversity of the population in the county, we also look at the number of individuals that identify as belonging to a racialized group. In the township of Springwater, 5.4% of the population in 2021 reported as identifying as a racialized group. And when we look at the immigrant population, the percentage is greater. It was 27%. Next slide, please. In immigration, we also like to look at direct arrival data, and that is defined by an individual that received their permanent residency before landing in Canada and then move into a community. Historically, in Simcoe County, most people would come to an urban area like the Greater Toronto Area, settle for a few years, and then move up to Simcoe County. But most recently, in the past 5 years, people are choosing to settle directly in Simcoe County. And that means that when they're arriving in Simcoe County, they might not know about services that are available to them. They might not know what they can access. So usually when individuals receive their permanent residency and settle, they might need a little bit more support settling in their community. Next slide, please. To inform the community settlement strategy, the Local Immigration Partnership has conducted a series of community consultation with service providers and employers in Simcoe County, as well as we released an immigrant survey. Next slide, please. In the immigrant survey, one of the questions that was asked was, what was the biggest challenge for newcomers when settling in Simcoe County? The 5 highest challenges were identified as finding work, making friends and social connection, accessing healthcare, and finding housing. Finding work was something that we found interesting. When we had our community consultation with employers, a lot of employers reporting having a hard time finding staff. So we found that there were kind of a disconnect in our community. Next slide, please. One of the other questions that, or two of the other questions that immigrant residents were asked were their experience about settling in Simcoe County. About 1/3 said that it was fair or a poor experience. And then when we asked about their sense of belonging in their local community, about the same number reported that their sense of belonging was weak or very weak. Next slide, please. So that brings us to the community settlement strategy. This is the Local Immigration Partnership's second community settlement strategy. The first one was released in 2012. And this community settlement strategy has 3 themes: living, working, and belonging. Next slide, please. And in this document, there are 12 recommendations that were brought forth to the community from those community consultation, as well as the immigrant survey. And I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the recommendation in the next slides, please. The first one that was identified across community settlement strategy, community consultation, sorry, and across the 3 themes was to provide a centralized location for service delivery access, social connection, and multicultural celebration. This was also a recommendation in a 2012 community settlement strategy to have this central location for newcomers and immigrants to access services, which we currently don't have in the county. Under the living and belonging theme, one of the recommendation was to increase the use of interpretation and translation support in mainstream service delivery. And that brings us back to the language data. When residents are reporting that their mother tongue are other than French and English, and they're trying to access service, using interpretation would be a good recommendation. Under the theme of living and working, decrease immigrants' lived experience of racism and discrimination. And that brings us back to the diversity in our communities. One of the challenge that was identified, I think that was the 6th challenge identified by immigrant resident in the immigrant survey, was the experience of racism and discrimination in our community. Under the theme of living, increasing equitable access to local housing was a recommendation. I want to recognize that accessing housing in our communities for newcomers and immigrants, but also for residents that have been here for a long time, is difficult. But when you're coming to a new community from a new country, you have heightened barriers when trying to access housing due to the lack of credit score, Canadian credit score, or even references that you're unable to provide to a landlord. And under the theme of working, increased labor force recruitment and retention of immigrant and international students. Under the theme of belonging, increasing multicultural celebration, introducing newcomers to local communities and their services, and also increasing the leadership opportunities for newcomers. Next slide, please. So what does this mean for the township of Springwater? It means that there are an increase in diversity in our communities, and there might be an increased need to address equity, diversity, and inclusion in our communities. It also means that there is a need to increase immigrant-specific programming in our communities. Settlement agencies, there are not a lot in our communities. A lot of individuals have to travel to Barrie to access language training, settlement services, employment programming, and it also means providing connection to community resources and services. Next slide, please. There are currently opportunities in the county and activities that are already taking place. The It Starts campaign, which is the annual anti-racism and anti-discrimination campaign that happens during the month of March is a good campaign to a good opportunity to collaborate. There is a diversity hub that the local immigration partnership has, which is an online platform with equity, diversity, and inclusion resource that is accessible for any municipal staff. As part of the diversity hub, we have a free online virtual lunch and learn on a specific topic every month. We also have, and we'll be releasing the Workplace Inclusion Charter. It is a tool for employers to be more inclusive, and this will be presented to County Council on January 6th. And supporting the Newcomer Recognition Awards is a good activity. I know, Your Worship, you were part of the Newcomer Recognition Awards this year. This year was our 12th Newcomer Recognition Awards, and this is an annual activity that happen every year. And this usually is during the month of November. And then participate in the annual Week of Welcome. This year, we had a series of events in September that brought about 1,000 newcomers again, there were many events throughout the county, but this would be a good event to participate in. Other two recommendation would be to provide space to newcomers, programming and multicultural celebration, and including immigrant needs in municipal strategic planning process. Next slide, please. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you for that. I'll now open it up to the floor for any comments or questions. Not seeing any. I'll speak briefly to the Newcomer Award event. I believe there was 9 different categories, and it was quite interesting, or it was celebrating a local family-owned and operated business out of Hillsdale was actually awarded as one of the businesses to support the newcomers. That was quite great. But yes, thank you very much for the information on the LIP, and I not seeing anything further. Thank you very much for being, and I'll have a mover and seconder.
Thank you.
May I have a mover and a seconder for this, please? I have Deputy Cabral and Councillor Thompson, that the delegation from the County of Simcoe Local Immigration Partnership regarding the County of Simcoe settlement strategy be received. All those in favor? And that has carried. We will now move on to question period, and I will turn to our Deputy Clerk. Have there been any submissions for this evening?
There were no question period submissions for tonight's meeting.
Are there any members of the public wishing to ask questions of council? Come on forward, please. I just ask that you state your name and address, and we allow for 2 minutes for questions.
Good evening. My name's Henry Vanderwillen. I live at 1851 Golf Course Road, Minising. And a question I have to council is due to budget demands, I was wondering if there's a time that the township look at hiring a economic financial advisor. And I think there's maybe opportunities that this person, the right person, could help with the township. And I was just wondering what your thought is on that. Thank you.
Thank you for the question, Mr. Van der Weylen. I don't know if I can turn to CEO Schmidt, if there's been any discussion among staff for increasing the capacity of our financial department. CEO Schmidt.
Thank you, Mayor Coghlan, through you to members of council and to the resident, if you will. So the 2025 budget that's being deliberated right now does include a couple of different positions. One is an economic development officer, and we also have a suggestion for a junior financial analyst position. So not maybe one and the same, but we definitely have requests in the council for their consideration for those 2 positions. Happy to have further discussions with you to better understand what exactly you may be looking for, and happy to have that conversation with you offline.
Thank council for the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, Councillor Thompson, sorry, you have a comment?
I'm allowed to make a comment?
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Van der Wellen, for coming. I'm not sure that you're aware, the last three budgets, we've had Economic Development Officer on the agenda. The last two, it failed, much to my dismay. This is something that I felt that has been really important to our township. My business experience was, and this is, I understand that we need to cut costs and keep costs down, but my business experience is that you improve the bottom line by increasing revenues rather than just cutting costs. And I see having an economic development officer a real opportunity for us to increase commercial taxes, the tax base, which really will take some of the pressure off the residential tax base. If you look at our mix or our breakdown, we rely 95% on residential taxes, 5% on business taxes, and less than 1% on commercial taxes. And I see that as if we could hang the open for business sign out for the township of Springwater, that could be a real win for residents. So thanks for coming and thank you for the question.
Thank you. Councillor Garwood.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin, and thank you, Mr. Van der Wellen, for coming tonight. And in addition to Councillor Thompson's comments, sparked a thought that this council has talked about often, as well as our economic development strategy. We're currently working off of a strategy that is almost 15 years out of date, and pending council's discussions and decisions. Should an economic development officer be implemented into the township of Springwater, one of those roles, one of those tasks would be updating our strategy and moving us forward in that aspect. So thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you again.
Are there any other members of the public wishing to address council? And not seeing any, I'll move on to our minutes. May I have a mover and seconder for the minutes, please? I have Councillor Alexander and Councillor Garwood that the minutes listed herein be approved. Minutes in the regular council meeting of November 6, 2024. Any questions or comments on these minutes? All those in favor? And that has carried. Our boards and committee, may I have a mover and seconder for the boards and committee minutes, please? Councillor Thompson and Councillor Fisher, that the minutes of the boards and committees listed herein be received for information. Minutes of the Springwater Sports Heritage Strategic Planning Committee meeting of May 6th, 2024. Minutes of the Springwater Sports Heritage Induction Committee meeting of May 8th, 2024. Minutes of the Severn Sound Environmental Association meeting of June 24th, 2024. Minutes of the SSEA meeting of September 9th, 2024. And minutes of the Nottawasaga Valley Conservation Authority meeting of October 25th, 2024. Are there any comments or questions on any of these? Not seeing any. All those in favor? And that has carried. May I have a mover and seconder for the action reports, please? Moved by Councillor Thompson, seconded by Deputy Cabral, that the action reports items listed 9.2 through 9.5 be received, and that the recommendations contained therein be approved as presented. We have 9.2, the award of RFP 2024-30 ISO Automated Speed Enforcement. 9.3, award of tender 2024-57 ISO Fuel and Lubricant. 9.4, 2024 Springwater Swing Tournament Fundraising Update. 9.5, request to reallocate project funds. And at this time, I'll ask if there's any to be pulled to be dealt with separately. Councillor Thompson.
9.2.
Councillor Garwood.
9.4.
Having 9.2 and 9.4 pulled. So at this time, council will be dealing with 9.3, the award of tender 2024-57 ISO Fuel and Lubricant, and 9.5, the request of reallocation of project funds, with 9.2 and 9.4 to be dealt with separately. Any questions or comments on the remaining two items? All those in favor? And that is carried. We will now move on to 9.2. May I have a mover and seconder, please? Councillor Thompson and Councillor Moore, that the report from the senior engineering technologist titled Tender 2024-30 ISO Automated Speed Enforcement dated November 20th, 2024 be received, and that the RFP 2024-30 ISO be awarded to Global Traffic Group Limited for the implementation and management of the ASE with the no upfront cost revenue sharing model. And at this time, I will turn to members of council for comment or questions. Pulled by Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. I would propose an amendment, would like to add some community safety zones. So I would propose, Manager Everhart, that we would add Gill Road in Midhurst in the 50-kilometer zone and designate that as a community safety zone. And also add George Johnson Road in Minnesing, the 50-kilometer zone, which already is the county has designated as a community safety zone. But again, according to the county anyways, that they have that, and that we would be able to, after, once you worked out an agreement with them, that we'd be able to add the cameras to that. Would also like to add a question to you as to, they haven't designated Horseshoe Valley Road through Anton Mills as a community safety zone, and wondered what the process or what we could do to get that designation.
Mr. Ebenhart?
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. Through yourself to Councillor Thompson. A few different things I'll kind of point or respond to. The last point there, just because it's fresh in my mind, was Simcoe County's road there, Horseshoe Valley Road through Anton Mills. So council here does not have this jurisdiction to designate a county road as a community safety zone. That has to be done through county council. I'll give the definition here through the Highway Traffic Act as well for a community safety zone. And I quote, "The council of a municipality may by bylaw designate a part of a highway under its jurisdiction as a community safety zone if, in council's opinion, public safety is of special concern on that part of the highway." End quote. So to that point, yes, council may designate certain areas as community safety zones. Through this process that I've outlined in the report here, we will be evaluating our current community safety zones. We'll be also evaluating areas that would be beneficial for community safety zones as part of this ASE program. In my opinion, I think it would be best served that we gather that data, we bring that back to council, and then at that point we can have a fruitful discussion with the remaining areas, the remaining wards within council, within the municipality to designate areas that would be beneficial as community safety zones.
Follow on?
So to get Horseshoe Valley Road in Anton Mills on the list, would that be something that our two designates would have to represent us at council, and I would have to convince them to take this motion to the county council?
Senior Engineering Technologist Ebenhart.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. To yourself, to Councillor Thompson. So we could bring this forward to the county. We would start probably with their engineering staff, their transportation staff, to bring this to their attention to see if they would feel comfortable bringing that recommendation to their council. At that point, their council would have that recommendation. Like I said, our council does not have the authority right now to designate that as a community safety zone. I do know neighboring municipalities that have implemented automated speed enforcement. A couple of them have partnered with the county to have the lower tiers automated speed enforcement on a county road. So that would be a formal agreement between the two, but from my understanding, those were already in community safety zones. Simcoe County did not have to designate any new community safety zones.
So, thank you. So through the chair to Manager Everhart. So would we have to give you direction to go, or could you just call county and ask them what the process is and the possibilities of Horseshoe Valley Road?
If I can interject, I have no problem CCing you in an email, and we can work with county staff on the appropriate steps going forward for that. Councillor Garwood?
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. Through you to Manager Eberhart. First off, I wanted to thank you for the report. I think I've been hyping this up with residents for the past year, and I've referenced it a significant amount of times to folks, and I know members of the Elmville community specifically are eager and excited for this to come online. Just a few questions for you. Specifically from within the report, I understand through the RFP, the township has outlined for 2 cameras. Understanding also identified in the report that there is no upfront cost, and there is a revenue sharing model in place. I believe we're 46% on that. Is there a reason why 2 cameras were selected initially for the starting process when implementing ASE?
Manager Eberhart?
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. Through yourself too, Councilor Garwood. Yeah, no problem. I can take you through that rationale. So we do right now have 5 community safety zones within township-owned roads, township jurisdiction roads. We do also have 11 school zones. So those are the criteria of where ASE can be installed in. The other community safety zones are school zones. So with that, we determined that 2 cameras on a rotating schedule, not fixed in a permanent location, would suffice for the time being, knowing that we could scale this model as well. So the contract was a 3-year fixed contract with an optional two additional terms of 1 year each. And at that point, we've also outlined 3 cameras in year 4 and 4 cameras in year 5. The proponent that has that we're recommending to award to here tonight has also outlined that they're okay for scaling that project up further than that quantity as well.
Councillor Garwood.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin, and thank you, Manager Eberhardt. And thanks for answering that. I asked because in doing some research, I understand the Township of ESSA has 4 active cameras, also on a rotational basis. And looking at some other municipalities, the town of Innisfil has 1 active camera right now. So just wondering in regards to that. My last question that I have for you tonight related to this matter would be around the revenue that will come from ASE. Understanding ASE is not intended as a revenue generation tool. Of course, community safety is the primary focus. Understanding again and reading some reports online from other municipalities, there has been a significant revenue stream coming from these the implementation of ASE. So I would assume that any revenue associated from this program would be directed back into additional enhancements in regards to community safety and road safety. Would I be correct in that assumption?
Manager Eberhardt.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. Through yourself too, Councilor Garwood. Yes, you would be correct. The revenue that would be generated would first offset any costs that we would associate with this program, and then secondly would go back into local public safety and educational initiatives for traffic safety. That's an MTO guideline, and that's what our recommendation would be as well for any revenue generated. To that point, outlined in the report here is approximately 6 months till we would go live from award. That would be as well. And from that point, that is just issuing warning tickets for 3 months. So really you're looking at 9 months from when you award versus when an actual ticket or revenue would come through that. And sorry, to go back to your question before this, regarding the number of cameras in the locations as well, I would also like to point out that as the cameras rotate, driver adherence becomes better and better to the traffic safety and to the rules of the road there and the speed limit posted. If the camera's in that location and it moves to the next location, the traffic and the motorists have kind of learned that location may be a location for ASE, and if the camera isn't active there, you will still get reductions in speed after it's been there initially.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin, through you to Manager Eberhardt. Could you just bring council up to speed on what a community safety zone actually means when someone is given a traffic violation ticket by the police for speeding or any other traffic infraction?
Manager Eberhardt.
Yeah. Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. Through yourself to the Deputy Mayor. Yeah, so outlined in the Highway Traffic Act, Section 214, it does outline the additional fines, which is typically a double fine for the drivers within a prescribed community safety zone. It also does outline when the designation is in effect, and same, it's similar way to a construction zone as well.
Councillor Thompson.
Through the chair to Manager Eberhardt. So in both the Minising location and in the Anton Mills location, I don't know whether you can answer this question or not. There's been a never-ending convoy of trucks going to the Edenville Airport, depositing the Toronto earth from the subway. Do we have any kind of indication when that project will end or if it will ever end?
Manager Eberhardt.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. Through yourself to Councillor Thompson. I do not have the specifics of that project, no. I do know there is a finite amount of material that airport can hold, but I do not know the quantities that they're at or how much volume they're still able to take.
Councillor Thompson.
Just to follow on, would it be possible that we could maybe contact Clearview Township and talk to your contemporary there and just maybe get some kind of idea, and so that when residents call me and complain, I can say that there is some relief coming other than cameras, and it would, I'd like to give them some hope at Christmas time.
Manager Everhart?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Coughlin. To yourself, to Councillor Thompson. Yeah, no problem. We'll look into that and get you back an answer. Thank you.
At this time, Councillor Thompson, you did have two identified areas put forward, and then we learned from Manager Everhart that that would be coming forward at a later date, so you're fine. Perfect. So Council, if there's anything further on this? And not seeing anything, so I have read the recommendation and it was moved by, I didn't have it moved. Moved by Councillor Thompson and seconded by Councillor Moore, that the report from the senior engineering technologist titled Award Tender 2024-30 ISO Automated Speed Enforcement dated November 20th, 2024 be received, and that the RFP 2024-30 ISO be awarded to Global Traffic Group Limited, for the implementation and management of the ASE with no upfront costs revenue sharing model, and that the mayor and clerk be authorized to execute the resulting agreement. Council, all those in favor? And that has carried. We are now moving on to item 9.4, pulled by Councillor Garwood, seconded by Councillor Alexander, that the report from the executive assistant, mayor, council, and CAO titled 2024 Swing Tournament Fundraising Update dated November 20th, 2024 be received, and that the proceeds from the Springwater Swing fundraising account be allocated as follows, and further that the disbursement of the approved noted funds in accordance with the township procedures. So at this time, council, we can have amendments put forward to this motion. Pulled by Councillor Garwood, and then after Deputy Cabral.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. Specifically in regards to an amendment, I would like to propose one. Considering the recent update and news regarding the CPKC holiday train not having a stop in Springwater this year, that significantly negatively affects the Elmvale Food Bank, who relies upon that event each year to not only collect food, but also receive donations. I understand CPKC is going to be continuing forth with their donation, but there's still the lack of physical food being donated. So I would like to add that, considering the recent update regarding the CPKC holiday train event, that $2,500 from the Springwater Swing be donated to the Elmvale and District Food Bank. $2,500 was selected, as I understand in conversation with staff and the food bank, that this is the usual amount of food donations that would have been collected during that event.
Thank you, Councillor Garwood. Deputy Cabral.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin, and I want to thank Councillor Garwood for bringing up the Elmvale District Food Bank. I'd go a step further. Folks are struggling. The banks are literally and it's not just in our location, it's all over the place, being utilized by folks who have never been there before. I would ask, or at least I would ask, that you consider a friendly amendment and bump that to 5,000.
Councillor Garwood.
Absolutely, I'm happy to do so, and thank you for the recommendation.
Yeah. I think it's worth noting that typically every year council does make a contribution to the food bank. So I think that coupling those two together would be our regular donation and the offset there as well. So we do have the community assistant program, the charitable community organizations, and I believe physician recruitment during our last was 20. What's the last number? So we do have that number. Any other amendments to be put forward by members of council? Councillor Garwood.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. More of a process question. For clarification, are staff looking for, assuming from the item on the agenda here, that staff are looking for specific dollar amounts associated to the community assistance program and charitable and community organizations, along with physician recruitment, which we know would be $20,000 based upon our conversation on Monday? Is that the understanding that we're looking for at this moment.
CEO Schmidt.
Through you, Mayor Coughlin, to Councillor Garwood. Councillor Garwood, that's correct. Again, the staff has come forward with a report advising of the amount that's available in the Springwater Swing fundraising account. And should council wish to provide for allocations to the Community Assistance Program and or to other charitable organizations and or further contributions to physician recruitment, we're at your disposal here. So we're just again providing council with an update on the current golf tournament, if you will, and what's available in the account to be allocated.
Follow on, Councillor Garwood.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. Through you to Director Bedard. Director Bedard, could you speak to the Community Assistance Program, the current funds available and account, and historically what has been utilized, just to give council an idea as to what an appropriate dollar amount might be?
Director Bedard.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin, and sorry for the feedback. Through you to Councillor Garwood. The balance in the Community Assistant Program is approximately 7,200 right now. When we look at the historical disbursements, I apologize, I don't have the nature of the disbursement. In 2016, the amount was 2,500. 2017, 2,275. 2019, the disbursement was 300, and 2024 year to date, there's been 2,000 drawn on that. So again, there's been disbursements, 4 disbursements over the last 8 years or so, and the total in that account is just over 7,000.
Thank you. I myself don't feel the need to assign any more funds to the community assistance program. I think that there's enough to carry us through this year, if not many more. Also, so if we earmark the 20,000 for the physician recruitment, 5,000 to the Elmvale Food Bank, with the remaining as our, I don't want to say our fund for when community organizations do come forward, and council can, as we do, just assign it at that time. And do we need a dollar amount for the remaining, or it could just say the remaining? Or actually, if we just allocate 20,000 for physician recruitment and 5,000 to the Elmvale Food Bank, the rest of it would just be there anyway. So we will keep it simple, so that if there's any other to come forward. I'm not seeing any. So at this time, council, we have that 20,000 to physician recruitment and 5,000 to the Elmvale Food Bank. Do you need me to read the full recommendation again? See, all those in favor? And that has carried. We will now move on to our items for information. May I have a mover and seconder, please? From Councillors Fisher and Moore, that the reports listed herein be received for information. Our Building Services Monthly Activity Report, October 24, and Bylaw Services Monthly Activity Report of October 2024, our Q3 2024 procurement summary, and 4 is the winter maintenance on Old Second South beyond Sutton. And at this time, I'll ask if there's any to be pulled for redirection. Councillor Garwood.
I have questions and or comments, so it wouldn't necessarily be redirection.
No, and you can go ahead with those at this time.
And that would be on 10.1.4.
Councillor, are there any to be pulled to be dealt with separately? And not seeing any, I'll turn back to Councillor Garwood for comment on winter maintenance.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. Through you to Manager Eberhart, or I will let you direct that. Just a few questions. So from reviewing the report, and thank you, it was quite thorough. So the budget amount for winter maintenance contracts is $275,000 in 2024, with a proposed 2025 budget request for $258,000. Due to a very light winter that we had in 2023-2024, I understand we've spent significantly less than what was budgeted. Can you speak to the historical average spent on winter maintenance in years past, just to give us an idea in regards to what we could be expecting in regards to winter maintenance down this specific road?
Manager Eberhart.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. Through yourself to Councillor Garwood. Yeah, so you are correct that the 2024 budget is $275,000 for contracted services under winter maintenance. So that includes a variety of different contracts. The bulk of that, though, is for the delivery, to supply the delivery and stockpiling of our sand and salt mix, our pickled sand, which is what we use on our roads here. That covers the bulk of that budget. With last winter, 23-24's winter, having uncharacteristically warm conditions, we did not use as much material as we have in years past. So as you did mention there, in years past, in 2022 and 2023, that account that for winter maintenance contracts, we averaged approximately $244,000 spent. Through that, we have had price increases for material. We have had price increases for contracted services. So that has crept up, and that is why we did budget $275,000 in 2024 with the expectation of a heavier winter. Didn't quite come that way. In 2025, we have budgeted $258,000 out of that. And if we look at historical averages outside of 2024, we should be on par with that.
Follow on?
Thank you, Manager Eberhardt, for that. I appreciate that information. Through you, Mayor Coughlin, to CAO Schmidt, do we have an understanding, and I'm not expecting a number at this moment in time, but could be useful for council and for the public to be aware of the total cost associated with this matter, understanding that we have had various opinions, whether it be legal or consultants, staff time, resources, closed meetings, open meetings, etc. I think it would be in a transparent nature to ensure that these costs associated with this matter are made public.
Any additional comments or questions? Councillor Fisher and Deputy Cabral.
I mean, I respect the questions, but we're sort of asking staff to predict the weather, and a weatherman can barely do that, right? So I applaud staff for coming back with a very reasonable price per incident, and I think that it's going to be very cost effective. And I think we're following the legal opinions that we received, so to maintain it for this price, under $300 per incident, with salting and sanding, I'm very impressed with it. So.
CAO Schmidt.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. Through you two members of council, just to be clear, this is an information report. And so direction provided by council previously was for staff to do it. So if council is looking for this third-party contractor to pursue this, there would need to be an amendment to tonight's resolution, just to make sure we're all on the same page.
Apologies. Anyway, well, if that's the case, I'd like to propose an amendment.
So at this time, then, council, what I'll do is I'll pull item 4 for further discussion, and we'll deal with 1, 2, and 3. So having that pulled, so the reports listed herein, the building services monthly report, the bylaw services monthly activity report, and Q3 2024 procurement summary. All those in favor? That is carried, and we'll now move back to our winter maintenance on the old 2nd South beyond Sutton. And at this time, Councillor Fisher has an amendment.
I would just like to propose that we move ahead with winter maintenance for the price procured by staff.
Councillor Moore.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Coughlin, to CAO Schmidt. So the direction was, and I was confused when I read this report because I thought that the direction was for staff to do it. And so was there discussion between yourself and Mr. Ha about the effectiveness of that arrangement? Maybe you felt this one was a better way to go?
That's right.
Thank you. CAO Schmidt, if you could speak to the direction provided to staff.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. So through you to Councillor Moore, as part of the direction that was provided back in October, the last paragraph, if you will, or second last paragraph, is that council hereby directs staff to proceed with seeking quotes from independent third-party contractors to complete the work and report back. And so we've received those quotes now, or the quote, and now we're reporting back to council. So it's not a recommendation report. We're just simply fulfilling that part of the direction that council has provided us. And again, the council has provided direction previously for staff to move forward with this. However, tonight we're here with a quote for council's consideration as to whether you wish to continue with the original direction or whether you wish to proceed with a third party to undertake these works.
Follow on, Councillor Moore.
Thank you. So help me out then just a little bit. Is it your sense then that you would prefer to go third party, which is what I'm sensing, or would you prefer us to keep it in-house?
CEO Schmidt.
Thank you, Mayor Coggan, through you to Councillor Moore. Councillor Moore, I'll go back, I guess, to my comments that we've had previously. My preference would be to go with the third party.
Sorry, I have Deputy Cabral, Councillor Thompson, and then Garwood.
Thank you, Mayor Coggan. Make it simple. I'm glad you brought it up. It was an information report. That's exactly what I wanted to bring to council's attention.
Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. I could support a third party doing this. Just a couple of questions about that, though. When we so we don't have a formal contract with them. Within the contract, would they go out when we called them? Would they go out based on a minimum standard or a minimum amount of snowfall? And would this, I would like to proceed with this if we do an amendment, that it be done on a trial basis like it would originally done. And then after the snow, a report come back as to how it went, what the cost was, and before we make it permanent. That would be my recommendation anyways.
Thank you for that. And before I carry on, Council, I had it moved by Councillor Fisher. I did not have a second. Councillor Thompson. Thank you. Councillor Garwood.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. And just to circle back and clarify on a few things, I'm not looking for staff to predict the weather. I am looking at specifically focusing on the current financial climate that we're at in this municipality. I believe as we're going through budget right now, it is prudent that the cost associated with just getting to where we are today, not whether it's 10 outings or 50 outings this winter, not the $269.66 per occurrence, the cost for legal, 2 opinions, the cost for a consultant, the staff resources, the council time that has been associated with this 315 meters of road specific matter. That is what I was referencing to specifically. But my question here is going to be now focused on the liability associated, understanding we cannot contract out our liability. Through you, Mayor Coughlin, to staff, whoever would like to answer, can you speak or clarify to the liability that the municipality will still hold even if a third-party contractor is out on the road clearing the snow off of this road that's been deemed unsafe in certain scenarios?
CEO Schmidt.
Through you, Mayor Coughlin, to Councillor Garwood. Councillor Garwood, it's my understanding that should we enter into a contract with this third party, any contract that we enter into, there is a requirement for them to provide insurance. And so typically on these types of contracts, we would ask for a minimum of $5 million coverage. And so with that in mind, that doesn't fully protect the township as it's our property. So that said, if an incident was to happen and we enter into a contract, and we would likely go after the third party first and try to use their insurance first. And then to the extent that it exceeded the $5 million limitation, then the township would be likely required to pay any differential. So again, it doesn't relieve us of total liability, but it does defer some of that liability, if you will.
Thank you. And before I do go to Councillor Fisher, just reminding council that the intention of this report is not to go back to the beginning of this discussion and hash it back out again. Council, whether you agree or disagree with the decision, this is the decision that's before us and this is the direction before us. So simply put, we can either continue to do this in-house or we can third-party contract it. We have had one person come forward to do it. So that's what's before us here this evening. And I think if we can just stay focused on whether we want to amend it to go with a third party or stay the way that it is. So I'll turn back to the mover and seconder and Councillor Fisher, if there's an amendment that you'd like to put forward.
Yeah, I would just like to move forward with this scenario. I think staff has recommended this; they would prefer it. I think it actually, I think it fulfills our obligations, and I think It also fulfills what the lawyer said, some of our obligations are, so I propose to move ahead with it.
So I have an amendment, sorry, I have this moved and seconded by Councillor Fisher and Councillor Thompson, but the amendment that's being put forward to move to third party is being put forward by Councillor Fisher, and I need a seconder for the amendment, please. And Councillor Alexander. So council, before us is to the staff proceed with the quote received from Ground Guys, Barry, for winter maintenance on Old Second Road beyond Sutton Heights. So that would be the amendment, is to go with the third party. Councillor Garwood.
I'd like to call a recorded vote, please.
Thank you. And this is on the amendment. So the amendment is to move forward with the third party. I will turn to our deputy clerk to call the vote.
You're okay. I think that was Fisher.
Moved by Councillor Fisher.
Yes.
Yes.
Moore. Councillor Moore.
Yes.
Councillor Thompson.
Yes.
Councillor Alexander.
Yes.
Councillor Garwood.
No.
Deputy Mayor Cabral.
Yes.
Yes. And that amendment has carried, so we will go back to the main motion as amended. So council, that would, I don't need to read that again. I do, okay. Oh, Deputy Cabral? Deputy Cabral?
Yes, I just want to make a comment. I did read the news reports when they came out after a meeting, and there were some comments made by union representatives that seemed to think that council was looking for an opinion that would satisfy their position. I think based on that, I think it would also be our employees' stand that a third party looking after this particular stretch of road would be in what they would prefer too. So I'd like to see the vote go forward.
Okay, so we do have the main motion as amended. Anything further, council? All those in favor? And that has carried. We will now move on to our municipal updates, please. I can pick a side to start. Councillor Garwood.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. Just a few things that I wanted to mention. First off, I wanted to congratulate and thank the Elmvale Legion for not only hosting their Remembrance Day dinner 2 weekends ago, but also the Remembrance Day ceremony in Elmvale. Councillor Alexander, the mayor, and I had the opportunity to represent Springwater at that event for the second year in a row, and they always do a fantastic job, so I wanted to congratulate them. Currently, right now, happening in Elmvale, at the last council meeting, I brought forth a notice of motion regarding the Mindful Mornings program. This council did choose to support them through my discretionary fund, and currently the Smile Cookie campaign that is occurring this week at the Elmvale Tim Hortons is the funds are going towards that Mindful Mornings program at Huronia Centennial Elementary School. So if you haven't been out there, make sure you do so. I was there on earlier this week decorating some cookies, and they've had lineups out the door over the last few days, which is great to see. And then just focusing or turning a focus over to some holiday events. It's wild to think that we're already there, but we have a couple events in Elmvale that will occur before our next council meeting. So I did want to speak to the Elmvale Christmas Night Market, which is occurring Thursday, November the 28th and Friday, November the 29th from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m., primarily on Queen Street in Elmvale. The Elmvale Christmas tree lighting, which is going to occur Friday, November the 29th, so the same night at 6:30 p.m. at the corner of Queen and Yonge. In addition, also on the same night, the Elmvale Community Recreation Association will be hosting a holiday bingo at the Elmvale Community Hall starting at 7:30 p.m. And to round out a weekend of holiday events in Elmvale is the Elmvale Santa Claus Parade, which will occur at 1 p.m. and will follow its traditional route down Queen Street. So we'll see you there.
Thank you. Councillor Alexander.
Thank you. I'll just give a early plug for the Hillsdale tree lighting ceremony, which is on Saturday, December 7th. So you'll hear from me again in 2 weeks on it. But mark your calendars if you are in the area and would like to attend. It's a great event.
Thank you. Counselor Thompson?
I'd like to thank the organizing committee, the newly formed organizing committee for the Springwater Park Remembrance Day ceremony. I was joined there by Councillor Moore and Councillor Fisher. It was a moving event. It was well attended and beginning really good traditions there. Would also like to thank the Rotary Club and Forest Hill Public School. I had the privilege of being there today for their Rotary Reading Day. I was able to read a book to two grade 2 classes. It was a wonderful event. They're promoting reading and literacy. We heard from their choir here tonight, the O Canada. What a great school, what a great spirit they have. And it was interesting to me that the Rotary Club had 25 schools in Simcoe County participate. And this is a local Rotary Club initiative. And they handed out 1,800 free books. The book they handed out was Andy and Elmer's apple dumpling adventure. And it was a fun day, and there's not only a great read, there's a great lesson in it. I would recommend all council members check it out from the library, and it's about a 5-minute read, and there's really a good message in there for all of us. Would also like to recognize the great work our library did on PA Day last Friday. Their programming for the kids that were out of school was at capacity, with long waiting lists for both Midhurst and for Elmville. So they continue to do the great work in our community. Also, the newly formed Friends of Library, which got their charitable designation this year, just completed an online auction for the library and raised over $3,100. So we have such amazing volunteers in our community. Want to thank them for the great work that they do, and special thanks for the Midhurst resident that bought my driftwood fish that was in the auction. That's all for me, Mayor.
All right. Not seeing any, Counselor Fisher.
I was just going to concur. I had a great time at the Springwater Park with Councilors Moore and Thompson as well. I think the attendance actually grew since last year. I know the two of us were there last year. It's nice to see that we're seeing more and more people come out for Remembrance Day, and I think it's a very well run event. I think the group that organized it has done a phenomenal job, and it's represented from multiple wards in Springwater. So it's really great to see that our fallen are remembered, even pushing 100 years later, but 100 years plus later, so thank you.
Not seeing anything else, but this time we can move on to our notices of motion. The first I have presented by Councillor Garwood, and this is for Kerr Street. I need a seconder for this, please. Deputy Cabral, and I will turn to Councillor Garwood.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. Whereas the township is committed to ensuring the safety and accessibility of its neighborhoods, including areas surrounding schools, which are critical for the well-being of students, parents, and staff. And whereas parking and safety concerns have been raised during school drop-off and pickup times at Our Lady of Lourdes Catholic School on Kerr Street in Elmvale. And whereas the township has addressed similar concerns at Huronia Centennial Elementary School by prohibiting stopping on the west side of Simcoe Street. Now, therefore, be it resolved that staff be directed to bring forward an amendment to Schedule C of the Traffic and Parking Bylaw 2005-018 at the December 4th, 2024 regular meeting to prohibit stopping on the south side of Kerr Street from 35 Kerr Street eastwardly to Ritchie Crescent from Monday to Friday, 8 a.m. to 9:30 a.m. and 2:30 p.m. to 4 p.m.
Councillor Garwood.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. So further on to this matter, this was brought forth to me by not only concerned parents of children attending Our Lady of Lourdes School, but also the residents that live directly within the area. understanding that amendments to the bylaw, in my research, as mentioned in my motion, there is precedent for this in regards to school zones, specifically on Simcoe Street, in Elmvale, and also on Forest Hill Drive, in Midhurst as well. This has been a large conversation, not only again with the residents, but the schools themselves. Township staff have had discussions and will continue to have discussions with Simcoe Muskoka Catholic District School Board regarding the queuing of their school buses to also alleviate some stress and traffic off of Kerr Street and Floss Crescent. And in addition, the school has been advised of this pending motion and doesn't have any concerns with it at this time. So I would hope council would indulge in supporting this motion, but I'm happy to answer any questions if there is any.
Any questions or comments at this time? All those in favor? And that has carried. Our next notice of motion regarding traffic bollards brought forward by Councillors Garwood and seconded by Councillor Fisher. And I will turn back over to Councillor Garwood.
Mayor Coughlin, I believe Councillor Fisher is going to present the motion and then I'll speak to it after.
Councillor Fisher.
Thank you. Whereas pedestrian zone signs, traffic bollards, were installed along 10 streets in Springwater in 2024, and whereas the effects of narrowing the lane widths with traffic bollards was a viable traffic calming measure, and whereas on average, the 85th percentile speeds were reduced by 6.9% with the bollards erected compared to without having the bollards in place. And whereas the maximum speed recorded along these road segments reduced by 14.2% compared with the same road segments when the bollards were removed. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the traffic bollards be installed at the below noted locations: Pools Road, Belmont Crescent, Spencer Avenue, Doran Road, Lorne Street, Nash Avenue, Simcoe Street, and Ritchie Crescent. And that the traffic bollards be installed from May to October, starting in 2025.
Yeah, and Councillor Garwood.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin, and thank you, Councillor Fisher, for collaborating on this motion. Understanding this is our second motion in regards to bringing forth bollards and implementing them into our communities. Yes, this was a conversation at our last meeting as well. I'm not going to go through the same spiel that I did last time, but I think the data speaks for itself. I wanted to specifically thank staff for answering our questions and being a great resource in this matter. I've consistently heard from residents around this matter. I probably could have a list of 20 bollard locations if we were to bring them all forward, but these locations that I have identified specifically, one of the roads already has one, so this would be a secondary bollard in that space. But these are areas of deep concern from members of the community that see a significant amount of either local residential traffic or traffic around one of our recreation facilities. So again, I'm hoping council supports this motion. I believe it's a cost-effective way that we can ensure our roads remain safe, and I think the data and the numbers speak for it.
Thank you. Councillor Moore.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. The clerk has an amendment that I'd like to make to this motion. I was it got printed before I could submit it. So would you mind reading?
Deputy Clerk.
The motion now before council be amended as followed: to add Glen Huron Drive at its most advantageous locations to be determined in conjunction with staff.
Councillor Moore.
Thank you. And that was for 2. Sorry. Yeah. Thank you.
Deputy Cabral.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. Through you to Manager Eberhardt, on these particular locations, and I can tell you right now that I probably won't be supporting it simply because we have a policy in place for traffic calming. Were these locations actually attended to and any data acquired from these locations? Because if that's the case, I have no problem with it. But if not, I do, because we have a policy in place to address traffic calming, and we seem to be circumventing it.
Manager Eberhart?
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. Through yourself to the Deputy Mayor. Yes, we do have a traffic calming policy. That policy is based off of speed of vehicles, high traffic speeds, volume, shortcutting traffic, collisions, pedestrian generators, and sidewalks. So we do have a council approved policy that dictates where traffic calming measures make sense and where kind of they do not make sense, and the warrants that would justify installing traffic calming measures. I have the outline list here. I do not have the information in front of me. I apologize today. But the roads that I know that we have done studies on here, they have not met the threshold within the traffic calming policy to implement them. I don't have every single road on here, but I know on Spence Avenue we have done traffic calming study and did not meet traffic calming policies. Lorne Street did not meet the threshold as well, and I do not believe Doran did as well. So there are some roads on here that I know we do have traffic data on that did not meet traffic calming policy. Within the last council meeting there on November 6th, it was within the report there that traffic calming measure, or sorry, the traffic bollards be endorsed as a viable traffic calming measures, and that as per the guidelines within the approved traffic calming policy, that we follow the traffic calming policy for where and when we should be implementing them.
Thank you very much through the mayor. I just want to make that point. And I just respectfully want to let other councillors know that I won't be supporting it simply because there's a policy in place that this council had put into place in order to address these specific concerns. And from what I'm hearing, these locations, some of them don't necessarily meet the threshold, yet we're putting them wherever we seem to want to. So once again, I'm stuck in, maybe we should just repeal our traffic calming policy. So thank you. Just so everyone knows, that's why I won't support it.
Councillor Fisher?
I respect what the deputy mayor says, and there's validity to it. But I just want to speak to the motion that we brought forward. I think just representing my community, and you know, we are different communities, but I think one common thread in a lot of areas is the traffic and speeding problems. And I think finding a cost-effective way to tackle them and show the community that, as I said before, it's not a one Band-Aid solution. It's sort of multi-pronged, but this is certainly has proven to be effective. I do appreciate staff bringing back the data, because I have to admit, anecdotally, I felt like it worked, but that's just anecdotal, right? When it comes back and there is data on it, I feel that it's benefited. One thing I will say, you know, it does say in the motion here, like on Pools Road, to be in the most advantageous locations determined in conjunction with staff. You know, I think that each road is a little bit different. I know Councillor Garwood, you'd mentioned that bollards, you actually move them, you know, so it is slightly experimental and it's a bit of a moving target, but I think if done correctly, certainly it will help out. So I do stand behind it, but I do take your points.
Councillor Alexander?
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. So I see both sides here. I do agree. I think traffic bollards seem to be working, so I am fine moving forward with them. But I don't want an amendment per se, but I would suggest that we do revisit the traffic calming policy in the new year, because we have lots on our plate right now. But if we're not going to follow it, there's really no point in having it in my mind. So maybe not repel it, but maybe we review it.
Thank you. And before I go back to Councillor Garwood, I think that the traffic calming policy serves a great purpose. And I think that the intention of it was to provide our residents with an avenue to bring things forward. And sometimes residents either aren't comfortable or don't want to, or just find it more efficient to just request that of their councillor. I do remember at the last meeting, there was a couple in Ward 4. I think that rather than sitting here and amending this to have 3 more in Hillsdale and whichever, if we want a policy, just each of the wards gets 4 locations annually at the discretion with conjunction with staff. So that way we're not sitting here coming up with locations to be determined at a different date. And it just sounds, to me, this sounds one-off. There seems like there's no method. And if each of the councillors can sit down with Manager Eberhart, decide their 4 locations for this upcoming year, which are outside the traffic calming policy. This is in addition to, this isn't a council initiative. This is not it's not working against our traffic calming policy. I think that that would just be fair amongst all the wards, allow us all to move forward. Carry on. And I don't know if that's something that, I mean, Council Ward 1 and Ward 5, and now 3 out of 4 for Ward 4 would be determined, and then that would give opportunities to Councillor Thompson and Councillor Alexander to determine the same in their wards. Councillor Garwood.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. Yeah, I'm happy to see that added to the motion as long as Councillor Fisher's supportive of it as well. I think also respectfully, this was a notice of motion brought forth with planning and consideration associated with it. So I will say that this list was made in conjunction with the two of us. So I understand that, but yes, I'm fine to ensure that all wards in Springwater have equal opportunity.
Councillor Fisher.
Just a quick mention, Councillor Thompson, or Councillor Garwood's completely right. I think sometimes as a councillor, you know, to his point before, we could probably find a dozen roads where people want it. Sometimes I think we have to sort of manage the community. I think these are roads that warrant it. I'm sure there'll be many people once they show up that will come forward and say, hey, I want it on my cul-de-sac, you know, and you're gonna have to manage their expectations. I think that that these are roads that certainly living in my community, I can tell you the ones I selected, I can defend standing behind them, right? And we just don't want to see that it's abused, I guess, you know, or overused. So to your point, like if it's a certain set amount of roads and we can work within it, I think we can manage the public's expectations with it.
Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. So through the chair to Manager Eberhard, just to refresh me, these come down in the wintertime, correct? These are number one. And what is the cost per road per bollard, or what it went for each site?
Manager Eberhard.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin, through yourself to Councillor Thompson. If you give me 2 minutes, I'll be able to pull up the exact cost per grouping of bollards, which is typically 3 if we can install them. To your other point, yes, we typically install them after street sweeping is done, which is May-ish. So once street sweeping is wrapped up for the year, we will install them. And then at the end of the year before winter season, so mid-October-ish, start of October, depending on what the weather looks like, is when we do remove them for the winter season. They are drilled into the asphalt. So the roads that it has to be installed into an asphalt road, cannot be installed into a surface treated road. And through the winter, then it's backfilled with a plug and with a set screw for the time being, and then reinstalled in the spring.
Follow on.
And thank you. Well, and while you're getting that information, just a comment that during budgetary times, we've given staff a lot of criticism for the 14% that they came forward with, and this is another example of how much of the budget is council driven. This isn't something that staff's coming to us and asking for money for. It's something that council is going to staff and going to the community and requesting. And I've been able to identify a few things like this in the budget. And just to be, I think that the idea that everything is coming from staff and all the pressures on staff hasn't been really fair with this budget. Much of the budget has been council driven as well. And so I'd be interested when Manager Eberhard has the number, if he could share it with us.
Manager Eberhard. Not yet. I'm going to muddy the water. Oh, sorry, Councillor Moore. And then I have.
That's okay. Thank you. Just a quick note to say that in Ward 4, I have specifically 4 separate communities. So while it seems like I might be winging it with the bollards, you know, the individual resident groups are not always specific, you know, in the exact location that they would like it most. And I've given them opportunity to suss that out. And I have again with Carson Estates, same idea, but they did come to me, and recognizing that I think community safety is certainly top of mind for them. And I do think that they would be most appreciative of this. So while it may seem like I'm winging it, I'm actually not. You know, these are conversations that I've had with these individual communities.
My apologies if the winging it comment was not directed at an individual member of council. It just, every time this comes up, it seems like we're doing something on the fly without actual So I just wanted the intention to not be that. And I apologize to Councillors Garwood and Fisher for not speaking to them about this earlier. And if by any chance, oh, do you have the number? All right. Manager Eberhard.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. Through yourself to the rest of the council. We did receive pricing in 2023 when the first notice of motion came here. We did reach out to 4 vendors at that time. The lowest price that we went ahead with was approximately $500 per grouping of 3 bollards. That is just for the signage and for the epoxy. It does not include staff time, labor, or any of those other components, but for the actual materials, that's what we were looking at. Thank you.
Councillor Garwood.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. And just to add on to that, certain bollards within the municipality are not in groupings of 3. For instance, 2 of the 3 in my ward today, understanding they're not physically up today because it's past the time of the season, but are within school zones that have a kiss and ride lane and a bump out. So therefore, they cannot have it on either side. So in that case, I'm assuming Manager Eberhard, and I'm not looking for the cost, but the cost would be less than that.
And I'm just going to ask Councillor Garwood just to repeat the second part of that question there.
It was just more of a statement, Mayor Coughlin.
Oh, thank you. CEO Schmidt.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. Just to the comment, agreed, staff agree that community safety is a priority. That being said, when we add these locations in discussions with staff here, it's taking a day at least for staff to go and install these. So again, we're taking away from some of the other priorities that these individuals are working on. So as we continue to have our staff do other work such as this, it takes away from their main responsibilities. So again, council needs to be aware that we're going to do it, directed by council, but at the end of the day, you are eroding what some of our staff are already working on. There is an impact. I know we don't talk about the staff impact. There is a staff impact.
And again, I did not reach out to either one of you about this in advance, but I'm curious if encompassing, therefore be it resolved that council approved the allocation of 4 traffic bollards for each ward in the township with locations to be determined in conjunction with staff annually. So that'd be next year if you want, if these locations, if you have more pressure to move forward, or I can just leave it in Councillors Thompson and Alexander can work on something similar for next time. I can just leave it. That's fine. Councillor Garwood.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. I'm happy to have the amendment added to the motion. I don't see the point of removing the roads that we've already identified. So I would say leave the 4 each, and then that would mean Councillor Fisher and I have identified our locations, and Councillor Moore, apologies. And therefore, Councillor Alexander and Councillor Thompson would have the ability to do so leading into 2025.
Thank you. That sounds good too. Okay. So then at the bottom, those that have been identified, and so the amendment would then be, that council approve 4 locations for each of the remaining wards. Done. And Deputy Cabral, would you like me to pass the chair for my amendment, or would you like to bring my amendment forward? Thank you. Moved by Deputy Cabral, seconded by Councillor Thompson. So that would be to add wards 2 and 3. Council, all those in favor? And that is the amendment to the opposed. Thank you. You can't oppose your own. All right. When I ask you to move something and you're not going to support it, typically I could ask someone else to, anyway, thank you. I'll turn to the clerk. Are you fine? Yes. Can I have that moved by moved by Councillor Thompson, seconded by Councillor Alexander then? Thank you. That's fine.
He can do it.
That's fine. All right, never mind. It's done. As amended, back to the main motion. Is there anything further on the bollards? Not seeing any. All those in favor? And opposed? And that has carried. And now we are on to a notice of motion brought forward by Councillor Alexander, seconded by Councillor Fisher, and I will turn to Councillor Alexander.
Oh, geez. Sorry, it's been a long day. I'll start again. Whereas the Council of the Township of Springwater recognizes the increasing cost of living and the impact those costs have on their have on their taxpayers. And whereas these increases disproportionately affect those on fixed incomes, and whereas tax rates at the municipal, provincial, and federal level continue to put an increasing burden on taxpayers, and whereas the increases to the County of Simcoe's budget are passed on to the municipalities within the county, and where all members of county council sit on municipal councils for which they receive additional pay. Now therefore be it resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Springwater urge County Council to repeal their 165% wage increase to all members of County Council. Be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution be circulated to the Premier of Ontario, the Honourable Doug Ford, Barrie Springwater Oro-Medonte Member of Provincial Parliament, Honourable Doug Downey, and all municipalities within the County of Simcoe.
Yeah, I'll turn back to Councillor Alexander.
We've spoken at length over the last couple of weeks about the high budget pressures in Springwater as well as within our neighboring communities within the county. We've not only at this table, but I'm sure at tables in all of our neighboring communities, we're looking at the impact of labor costs and how that affects the tax rates that are given. And those increases all flow down to the taxpayers of the county and specifically this township. So I feel that the 165% wage increase given to oneself is incredibly out of touch. You certainly don't see that very often. I was very happy to hear that both of our representatives were not in favor of this, or one was not there, but not in favor through conversations. And I wanted to bring it to this council because I do think we do have a say. The county should listen to us. And if we can resolve as a county that we're not that we're not happy about it, and potentially other municipalities within the county push back as well, then there is the ability to affect change.
Thank you. And I'll now move to the seconder.
Thank you. I think the motion's sorry. I think the motion speaks for itself. I've fielded many calls from people, and I think we all know at this table, a lot of people don't discern the difference between county and Springwater, so I've had a lot of those conversations. But I can tell you there are a lot of people, they may question our budget here in Springwater, and some of these increases are justifiable. They have to happen. But I think when people take a look at county councillors electing to give themselves some pretty hefty raises in 165%, it doesn't sit right with people. And I certainly, as a taxpayer and as a municipal politician, I can't justify it. I definitely don't think it's right. So I do believe that taking a stand, or at least making our, as a council, making our voices known to those members, I think it's something we should do. So.
Thank you. And before I go to Councillor Thompson, the only request I would have is that where it says repeal their 165% wage increase, the wage increase is actually, it's been floated around as different numbers. So I just don't want it to lose credibility if it's not the number that county council has agreed to. So if it just could just read, repeal their wage increase. Firstly, the wage increase is to go up next year, but then double the year after that and get there. And I will say that I spoke against this on the county floor. I am in favor of county councillors increasing their wage next term. The actual discrepancy between the facts are the facts. Like that's where the 60 percentile comes in. The huge problem I had with that is that as county councillors, we knew what the pay was. We knew getting into it. And it's significant. It's $10,000, approximately $10,000 the first year and $20,000 the second year. I will assure you that as deputy warden, my wage is not increasing. I was already at the deputy warden's wage is already there. So there was no wage increase to that. So Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. Just a comment and a question. I'm in support of this resolution. I also noticed that was noted here that we have 2 seats on this council, and one of our seats wasn't filled at this important vote. Also, I noticed last week when the county council tried to vote to reduce their budget from 4% to 3.5%, our second seat wasn't filled as well, and that was a tie vote. So our seat would have been the deciding vote in having a 3.5% increase at the county as opposed to what it turned out to be a 3.65. So question is, you know, how did this happen? Or can somebody explain to me the process here? And is there not something that we could do in the future to ensure that our taxpayers are represented properly on this council?
Deputy Cabral.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. I don't know whether it was a tie vote in the number of hands you saw, but the votes are weighted. It was weighted tie vote.
No, so and I do
And,
apologize.
I
for
just-
interrupting.
Yeah, sorry. I just wanted to also say that I'd planned one holiday well in advance, and I think most members of council would agree that you have an entitlement to that. The second time when I was away, I had to leave. I didn't plan on it. It was a matter that took me away out of the country. And I don't have any other reason for not being there. When I'm available, I'm always there. And as far as it goes for alternates, there are times when an alternate cannot attend. And if you do watch county council on a regular basis, you will see that there are seats vacant sometimes when the councillor can attend and when the alternate is unable to attend. So I can't provide you with any more than that, Councillor Thompson. I try and attend every single council meeting that I can. And when circumstances dictate that I can't be there, I can't be there.
Thank you. And I think I do apologize for interrupting when you were speaking. The vote at county council to reduce the percentage from 4 down to 3.5 because it was in committee of whole. There is no permission of recorded vote. So this was hand by hand and it was a 15-15 tie.
Right. Votes are
Remember, I just apologized to you for interrupting. So yes, you are correct that during a recorded vote, which would happen during council, not committee of the whole, it does become a weighted vote to which I have 5 votes and you have 4 votes or 4 and 3. But at that time, it's not permitted to have a weighted vote. So it was a 15-15 tie and therefore defeated. Moving forward from that, because half of the floor wanted 4 and half wanted 3.5. We just came together with a compromise to get us there, but we did miss an opportunity to move down to the 3.5.
Just one more comment, Mayor Collin.
So again,
Sorry.
Deputy Cabral.
Thank you. I just wanted to say, since you say it was 15-15, there would have been one other vacant seat there, Councillor Thompson.
And that would be correct. So that's, I was chairing as the deputy warden, so the warden was away. Councillor Thompson.
So I see this as missed opportunities on 2 important votes that we're talking about here tonight, where we could have expressed our displeasure other than I'm in favor of the letter. And I would propose a solution as well. I understand that things come up. I thank you for the explanation. I understand that we all have busy schedules. Is it possible to have an alternate to the alternate or some other plan in place so that going forward that our taxpayers are represented properly at this council?
The county's terms of reference for alternates is 1 alternate, and that does require an oath of office and being sworn in. So it's not just, we can't just say, okay, guys, who can go today? You do at that point become a member of county council. So that's that information. Deputy Cabral.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. I just want to add one thing is we don't know what's going to be on the agenda every time there's a meeting either, Councillor Thompson. And I can give you probably 100 different reasons why someone might miss that meeting inadvertently. So if you're upset, I'd love to be able to say I'm sorry, but unfortunately, I booked my holiday way back in May. And the other time when I had to leave the country, that was something that I didn't do because I wanted to. I had to go because I had to go. Hope you understand.
And I hope that this is not meant to be pointed. As a council, we have appointed ourselves and we also appointed an alternate. I did reach out to the alternate after the discussions, and as stated tonight, you do have a full-time work commitment, so I can understand that. But also, it is incredibly important that we do have, and there has been some significant votes recently at the county. There always is, but these two really stand out when we were voting to reduce the size of county council and voting on a budget and voting on wage increases. Those are things where I feel it's very important for our residents to have full weight and full representation. I'm going to go to Councillor Moore, Councillor Thompson, and then I will finish with our mover and seconder.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. So I feel the need to weigh in, even though I think it's unwarranted. I've not missed a single county meeting when I've asked to be there as the alternate. This was short notice. I did have a prior commitment, but I did offer to Zoom in, and the county advised me they did not have that capacity. So I wasn't able to Zoom in. They don't have a hybrid capacity like we have here. And I did offer to come late because I would have been late. And it was felt that that was too disruptive.
Thank you. And I think out of all of this, what I'm hearing is our council needs to communicate more with each other about the alternate position. I was actually chairing that meeting. I definitely would not have prevented you from entering the chamber. And I think that that's unfortunate. That was the information that was provided to you because members of county council are coming late and leaving early often. But I think that it is important that if one of us is going to be away, that we well in advance provide opportunity. When you're sick, that's one thing. And if not, if it doesn't work with a full-time schedule, and that is not what you said, we do have other people on council. It is important that we do have representation at our county meetings. And I will go back to Councillor Thompson, Alexander, or Fisher. You guys can decide on closing words.
Thank you both for the explanation. And for me too, that the optics, I support this letter. That going to county councillors, the optics too is they may see that we weren't fully represented at the meeting and somewhat hypocritical that we're criticizing them when we weren't properly represented at that meeting. I think it's the right thing to do to send the letter to send the message, and hopefully they hear it.
Councillors Alexander or Fisher?
I really have nothing further in that I'd like us to vote on the matter at hand, but I'll pass it over to Councillor Fisher.
Yeah, I don't have much more to say. No, I think that that the majority of council, regardless of who was there, not voted in favor of the pay hike. So I definitely think it would have gone that way. I think expressing our opinions, and frankly, I think to quote Doug Ford as I did before, it's like what is it, the fox or the wolf guarding the hen house? I think it was. I think that. Particularly in these economic times, we need to have politicians who are a little bit more aware of their own personal gain, I guess it is. And I think those are the optics that a lot of people in the communities saw, that politicians were giving themselves a pay hike, right? So anyway.
And the vote has been called. Okay. All those in favor? And that has carried. Are there any additional notices of motion this evening? Any items for future consideration? I may have a mover and seconder for our bylaws, please. Councillors Garwood and Alexander, the bylaws listed here and be signed and sealed by the mayor and clerk. 5000-398 ZB 2024-017 Floss Road 6 West. All those in favor? That has carried. Confirmation bylaw, mover and seconder, please. Councillors Moore and Fisher, that bylaw 2024-095 to confirm and adopt the proceedings at council on a regular meeting held on November 20th, 2024, listed here, and be signed and sealed by the mayor and clerk. All those in favor? And that has carried. And adjournment. Councillors Thompson and Deputy Cabral, that the regular meeting of the Township of Springwater does now adjourn at 8:14 PM to meet again on a regular meeting on December 4th, 2024 at 6:30 PM. All those in favor? Adjourned.